it's very recent for me, even thinking like, I need to stop holding myself back.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people know what they need to do. Like a lot of people know exactly what would get them to the next level. And like you can envision it and you know how you should act or you know the actions you do need to make. And we just hold ourselves back.
It's just believing that you can achieve
it.
I've
been holding myself back for like 10 years in some ways because I knew I wanted to be patient and I wanted to like learn and work for other people and learn from creative directors and stuff. But I think that sometimes it is just the decision to like, all right, I'm done holding myself back. I'm going to be the expert now.
For 10 years, Jason Murray played by the rules. He worked his way up through agencies like BBDO and at Amazon, pitching ideas to brands, building campaigns for other people, and the whole time, he knew exactly what he needed to do to break out on his own. He just kept holding himself back. Then Amazon asked everyone to return to the office full-time, and that was it. Jason quit, went all in on short-form content, and within months, brands like Adobe and ManyChat started reaching out to him. So here's what clicked for him. We're trained to think that we need to help a brand do a thing, but Jason flipped it. He does the thing first, builds something he owns, then lets brands come to him. He calls it Creative 2.0. And this conversation gets into what that actually looks like, how to stop waiting for permission, and how to use the same skills you're already using, just directed at yourself instead of at somebody else. If you've been freelancing or working in-house and wondering what comes next, this one is definitely for you. And if you're getting something out of these conversations, hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Drop a review if you can. It helps us out and helps other creatives find the show. You can also find the No Set Path newsletter over on Substack at thedrewenglish.substack.com. It's growing, and it would be great if you were a part of it. And now, on to my conversation with Jason Murray. Jason, thanks for doing this, man.
Of course, yeah.
You're one of the few guests that I've never met in person prior to recording. We were talking earlier, and I said, usually I've at least hung out once or met somewhere, previous guests or know from another life or whatever, but I'm going in pretty much cold with you, other than the fact that we've been trading messages online for a while. And I was super psyched that you agreed to do this because I feel like in a lot of ways we're probably pretty aligned on a lot of our approaches and thoughts on like creativity, creative career.
For sure.
Kind of being out there, hanging in the breeze all by yourself, trying to figure out how to build something sustainable for yourself. So I think the best way to like kick this off, mostly because you come from a world that's a little bit foreign to me in terms of creative direction on the mostly design side of things, right?
Yeah, on the ad agency side of things within art direction, yeah.
So it's a world that's a little bit less familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know a little bit about where you started, like how you got into that space to begin with, and like kind of what your journey through that career path looked like to now, because I just know you as basically the guy on Instagram who is just like rolling out reels on a regular basis, talking about art direction.
I don't know. I love these kind of conversations because it's just easy to chat. It's like I've known you for a while because we've talked about the same kind of things.
Agreed.
So I got into the advertising industry mostly because I've had a passion for video, creative things, but wanted to work for brands. Like I was so into the Red Bull films and Nat Geo type stuff, Patagonia, North Face type films, and started to figure out that like, if I want to do those kind of like videos, whether it's a 10-minute YouTube video or something that's longer, it's got to be in this commercial world. But I grew up in a small town in Alberta, Canada, nowhere near any of that kind of stuff. So it wasn't until I went to college down in Utah that I started to figure out that like, maybe it's in advertising. I've always been a bit of a content creator. Like I've made YouTube videos since I was in high school, junior high, high school. And so that led me to an advertising program. And I was in more of a content creator track in that program. And they actually took 3 to 4 of us, took us and put us in like a content creator group. And there was art directors, copywriters, and then these content creators that they didn't know what to do with. I ended up choosing art direction at the last minute because I got to a sort of like a place where I had to choose either going production, like go the video production route, be a video editor or a DP or a producer,
Sounds
director,
familiar.
something like that, or go to the creative department within an advertising agency. There wasn't really like specific roles for creators. So I chose to go art direction and happened to find an agency, BBDO in Chicago.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Where they were willing to take a chance on me. They knew that they saw my portfolio. It was like filled with good ideas. They saw that I could be a good art director if I focused on the ideas and then learned some of the design stuff along the way.
For sure.
So I started as an art director at BBDO. Didn't know what I was doing. Had great ideas, but like had to learn Photoshop, learn design, and it was just kind of baptism by fire and figuring it out like as quickly as possible.
Well, you hit on something really interesting at the end there, which is like you said, I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of these conversations, and I find that is the one consistent theme with pretty much everybody I've talked to, is that they really don't, at some stage, know what they're doing. And even when they get further along down the road in their career, whatever it is they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
it's less of knowing exactly what the right answer is and more of like being able to figure out what the next right move is for yourself based on where you are at the time. So, BBDO, that's a big agency.
Yeah.
Like I'm not an agency guy and I recognize that agency name, and the fact that you just like took the leap, got in there, and was like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're going to figure it out. I think is a really common thread with a lot of creatives. How long were you at the agency for?
I was at BBDO for 3 years. Another agency, I was at Huge for another year. And then I went to Amazon after that. And honestly, it was very similar to an ad agency. I was in the advertising org within the brand innovation lab. So that job was for another 3 years. And that was about kind of helping brands like Coca-Cola, Kraft Heinz, Pepsi do advertising on the Amazon like canvas within the Amazon empire.
Mm-hmm.
So like how do you help them do something for Twitch or with Amazon Prime Video IP or Alexa IP or whatever. So I've done that for 8 years, then quit my job. and that's where it gets more into the recent creator life, but
well, hold on. Well,
we don't have to jump ahead.
Well, what led you to quit your job? Someone might say you had like an ideal situation where you're probably making pretty decent money, being in-house at these agencies, like working on big campaigns, big brands, big clients, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So why quit your job?
There's a lot of things. A lot of different, it's hard to attribute it to one reason because there's just so many different things that align. Like one aspect is I've kind of always wanted to be a creator or an independent creator. Like I've always wanted to be like, in the early days, for me, it was like Devin Supertramp.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with him, but if
I know
anyone
the name,
knows,
yeah.
the YouTuber that would do the really cool cinematic kind of travel films or stunts or things like that. Then it was Casey Neistat.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like all these YouTubers I looked up to. So it was like, I want to be an independent creative. I want to be able to make my own ideas. Another attribute was, or another like aspect of the decision was, got to a point where I felt like I'd done what I wanted to do within an ad agency.
Yeah.
And the next step was be a creative director, start leading more teams, which I'd led a lot of projects, but hadn't necessarily like been a manager at that point. But I didn't really want my boss's jobs. Like I loved my bosses and I loved my managers that I had, but I didn't want their jobs. Like they seemed like they worked more than I did. And that meant taking time away from my hobbies, the content that I was doing on the side for the last 10 years, time away from my family. And that's the other aspect was I just had a kid, having a kid and wanting more time. And I'd get texts from my wife in the middle of the workday where she'd be like, oh, like his first steps, or
Oh,
we're
man.
laughing about this, or here's a picture. And I was just like, what am I doing?
Oh man. Yeah, I definitely relate to that because I come at it from a different angle because when we were having our kid, like I had already been freelance. I still am, I've been
Mhm.
freelance for 13 years at this point. And I'm really thankful that I got to be there for a bunch of milestones, but also like working as a DP and like being on travel jobs when my daughter was really young.
Ugh,
It's like being gone for days at a time and just like even missing what equals a very small amount of time. It's
yeah,
just like it really like it hits you right here, like right in the chest where you're like, okay, I need to reprioritize some things,
totally.
figure out how to be around more.
I can't imagine that too, because like had been on a lot of production shoots,
Yeah.
and like earlier in my career, I loved being able to like fly to Toronto, fly to LA or
Who
whatever,
doesn't? It's super
and
fun.
like go be on set, go be
Yeah.
in Video Village, go do whatever. But then like after a while, I was like, oh, this is just work, but in a hotel, and I'm
100%.
now just like away from my family. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And we were talking earlier before we started this. One of the things we kind of preach in our own way is living a creative life or building a creative career on your own terms.
yeah,
Right. And I think that's something that's becoming a little more ubiquitous now, right, in 2025. And again, pre sitting down here to chat, we were having a coffee and, I was saying how from the production side of things, because that's where I went, I taught myself to shoot and edit. And,
yeah,
2025 has been super rough for production work in general.
yeah,
And I think there's a lot of people who are trying to figure out like the next iteration of work in life and what it means to be a creative on their terms, like what works for them. And so once you made the decision to quit,
hmm
you're like, okay, I'm gonna bounce out of my job. I'm gonna figure out what the next thing is. I don't want to say what was your plan because oftentimes you make plans to break them,
yeah.
What was at least your thought process in like, okay, I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to start something else. And what was that something else?
Yeah, it was honestly two things. I I knew that, I wanted to quit my job and I could go freelance.
Yeah.
And that was one plan, like that was like plan B. That was one lane that I knew I could do. And in like the ad agency world, going freelance is honestly like a pretty there's like a there's like a framework for it. There's like a set kind of thing where you can I won't say easily, but a lot of people work for ad agencies as freelancers, or like they'll contract,
For sure.
and it's a lot of like backfill for somebody, or covering for someone's paternity leave, or they get a new business pitch or something and they need to staff up for a little bit.
Yeah. They'll come in for like 3 or 4 months or
Yeah.
whatever. Sure.
So there's like a pretty good market for freelancers.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured that was a transition that I could make if I felt like I needed to do that. And then the other aspect was I have been, so a year ago, I had been really starting to ramp up more content, which is kind of where that's the more recent thing for me. But I had really started ramping up short form video, leaning in a ton, really trying to figure it out. And when I decided I wanted to quit my job and made the final decision, it was when Amazon was asking us to go back to the office like 100%. And so I just kind of told everyone like, all right, by the new year, I'm going to figure this out, or I'm going to go freelance. Either way, I'm quitting my job and I've got like two options.
Yeah.
So I just went hard with content, tried to figure out short form video. And by the time I quit, it was like, okay, I could probably do full-time content creation. Also saved up enough money that I could give myself some runway,
Yeah.
and then quit my job and went just kind of full on into it.
It's really interesting. I think in like the post-COVID world, I think the return to office for anybody who is in-house or like working a full-time job is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people.
100%.
Because during the course of COVID, I think a lot of folks realized, and I say this, there's a lot of caveats I'm not going to say because there's pluses and minuses with everything, and COVID was terrible in many, many ways. But I think people realize the value in being able to control their time a little bit more.
It opened our eyes to it.
Opened eyes, being able to like be with their families, be with their loved ones more.
Yeah.
And just kind of have like a little more agency over themselves. So I think that return to office like really mixed things up for a lot of people.
Totally. Like for us too, it was like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? We go and like, we don't make enough money and we have to go live with our in-laws. We already did that over COVID. Like we've kind of experienced what the worst that could happen is, and it's not that bad. So for me and my wife, it kind of was a no-brainer that I'd been thinking about going out on my own for so long. And the upside of being able to build a career that I had complete control over. Like obviously not everything's under our control, but like I'm in the driver's seat and I can kind of steer things and say no to things and go in the directions that I want to. That's now like my North Star. Like that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have that kind of like you said, North Star, like that thing that's kind of like keeping you focused. I was saying earlier, it's like the closer I can get to just, earning as much as I can with as little work as possible on nothing but a laptop. Great. Here we go. But I'm curious about, I'm going to delineate things a little bit where you said, oh, I could go freelance. But in my mind, freelance is more akin to what you were saying, which is like, oh, I'll just go freelance. So I'll leave my stable position and I'll just freelance, kind of doing what I'm already doing, just at different agencies. I'll bounce around, right?
It's like it's just short term. Like
short term.
There's an end in sight. You're doing it for a month, but you're not like, oh, I'm locked into this for 2 years.
Totally. And I've done that, and I've like done a couple month in-house stints, like helping build video teams and like post-production pipelines and all that stuff. But what I'm curious about is, where was the shift for you? Because this is something I'm trying to figure out for myself. This is why I'm very curious and why I like having these conversations. So there's traditional freelance here, and then there's basically like content creation, or maybe a better way to say it is like leveraging your knowledge, to be, whether it's like some sort of thought leader in your space, or just you're sharing something of value that other people are learning from. At some point, you had to say to yourself, all right, I'm sitting here and I'm investing all this time and effort into short form video. And then it's clearly started doing something for you. And what always feels like a mystery to me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, which is why I like to share this kind of stuff, is it seems a little ethereal, where it's like, wait a second. So you're telling me I just sit down in front of my phone and talk into a phone with a little microphone that I hold on like this, like everybody else. And somehow that turns into like a career where people pay me for this and give me some level of autonomy to just kind of do my thing, and I make money from that. Like how does that work?
Yeah.
So that's the mystery for me. And I think a good way to back into that is like, when did the switch flip in your head? Like, oh wait, this is something I could do.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think one thing that a lot of people should think about is there is like kind of a difference between just freelancing for other people and not just having one boss, but having multiple bosses, having hundreds of bosses over years. And then there's also kind of entrepreneurship, like building something you own, building products you own, IP that you own, distribution that you own. And I think this switch that flipped in my head was when I did start to get some viewership, get reels that would go viral or reels that would just, get some more views, started to see that brands could really align to some of these videos and could see that there's a new income stream. And so I think the most helpful thing for me was thinking of it as a business. Like I'm going to start a business, and it's going to be this media business.
Yeah.
And it didn't start like that.
Yeah.
I started by just experimenting with videos, and I've been experimenting for years and years. But when I did go into short form, and this might be a little bit of a tangent, but I did decide to stop holding myself back and really think of myself like a media business. I'm going to put out content that I think would help, past self, myself, the content I wish I had.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways to think about that, but I knew that I wanted to build a sort of media business because I could, in one way, if it didn't produce income, at least it would promote myself as a freelancer. And that's something that a lot of people can think about is like, at the minimum, just getting your face out there is going to help you as a freelancer or help kind of promote you and any of the other services you've got, because whoever's top of mind is going to be the people that get the most opportunities. Sure. But then on the other side, like if it is successful enough, it's a business. It's like, it's not just, I don't know, influencer, creator, sort of this ethereal thing. It really is like you're competing against, I don't know, ABC and MSNBC, like channels, your network.
Yeah, I don't think it's too much of a stretch though. I don't think it's a really far off tangent, because I think a big part of that is overcoming like limiting beliefs, right? And the limitations you place on yourself. And yeah, at the very least, like if nothing comes of it, at least you tried and you shot your shot or whatever, and you put something of yourself out there. But I think so. It sounds like to me that maybe there wasn't one defining moment. It was just like this slow evolution of you continuing to create an experiment and then like build traction over time, and like kind of shed those limitations on yourself, which is something so many people, I struggle with it. We were talking about it earlier. It's like the thing stopping me from doing more in general is always my own self limitations.
Yeah.
I definitely feel the appeal and the motivation to try and position myself more as an expert instead of like an order taker. So my former business mentor, Rich, has this whole concept of like expert versus order taker. And I'm totally going to credit him with that, because it really is like a very clear delineation. It's like, do your clients tell you what to do, or do your clients come to you because they want your expertise?
Yeah.
And we're kind of talking about the same thing, instead of you bouncing around from like agency to agency, just kind of like fulfilling a role. You're building something that like you would have wanted a few years ago yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And that's leaning into the expertise, which clearly is going well for you.
Yeah. It's working out great.
Yeah.
I really love that though, because one of the reasons we talked about earlier, that it's very recent for me, even thinking like, I need to stop holding myself back.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people know what they need to do. Like a lot of people know exactly what would get them to the next level. And like you can envision it, and you know how you should act, or you know the actions you do need to make. And we just hold ourselves back.
It's just believing that you can achieve
it. I've been holding myself back for like 10 years in some ways, because I knew I wanted to be patient and I wanted to like learn and work for other people and learn from creative directors and stuff. But I think sometimes it is just the decision to like, all right, I'm done holding myself back. I'm going to be the expert now.
It's kind of the idea of like, how much, it's like, what's your pain threshold, basically? It's like, how much pain can you take until you're just like, okay, whatever the other side looks like, it has to be less painful than whatever I'm experiencing now. Whether that's, I'm barely scraping by, not making enough money, or I don't know, whatever.
Or even just the regret, like the itch to be doing the thing that you wish you were doing.
For sure. And this is the kind of thing that like got me excited to have you on here in the first place, because I feel like we're kind of on the same page with a lot of things. I do want to talk about, because it's kind of how we really started digging in, communicating more, the creative 2.0 concept, because that seemed to get a lot of traction for you. And it is something, you put a label on something that I firmly believe in, which is create some IP, create something for yourself that you can then leverage. Like for the last couple of years, the whole concept of leverage has just been like bouncing around in my head forever, because it's like, to me, that's really the only way you're going to get anywhere that you want to be.
Yeah.
Is how do you create leverage for yourself? And, you know, I even wrote about it. I saw a reel or two that you posted about it, and I threw it in a newsletter, you know, and I sent it to you. Just because it really resonated. And at the time, it was like a perfect storm. Like, you were talking about it, and then a couple other people I found online were talking about like similarly aligned things. But the concept of like, why are you waiting for permission? Like, just create your own permission, make your thing, and then try to build something off of that. So like, I wrote something down. I found in a quote from you that was from one of your newsletters that I had kicking around in my inbox, which was,
I hope it's good.
oh, no. It's, we've been trained to think in terms of services, which is help a brand do a thing, right? But what if we reverse that and do the thing, then sell to the brand? And I think that's really pertinent right now, because that's literally what you're doing now. Like I would assume a lot of what you're doing now is like brand sponsorships and partnering with companies and brands. And all that is because you made your thing and then you sold to the brand in concept. Can you unpack a little bit when you think of creator or creative 2.0, like really what that means to you?
For me, it comes back to ownership, like creative ownership, creative control. And that's something that I think a lot of creatives and artists that have ever worked in the commercial space are constantly craving. And because we work in very much like a services space, we don't always get, because there's like clients, there's all other stakeholders that get to decide like where the direction of things. So for me, the drive or the motivation for it is ownership. But I kind of coined it just like the creative 2.0, and I can't remember if I borrowed just even the idea of like a 2.0, internet 2.0, 3.0.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't really matter what it's called, but
No.
I kind of was looking at the moment we're at right now and the moment of this last year, and maybe we're still the next couple of years, where a lot of creatives are just rethinking where their skills could go. And for me, working in advertising, my skills were I can come up with ideas, I can pitch brands on these ideas, I can, as an art director, visualize, conceptualize the world of that idea, and then I can work with a bunch of creatives to bring this idea to life. I can hire a DP, director, or whatever, whether it's social, this or that. I started thinking like, I have all the skills to own the thing. Like I'm helping an agency sell ideas to these brands, but I don't have any ownership over that. What if I just use those same skills, but on myself? And for the 40 hours of work hours that we have in the week, what if I spent that on things that I could have ownership over and like choose to not give up that IP and control it? So in one example of that for myself has been last year. I really leaned into it, and starting to kind of bring it back is just the idea of a lazy art director, the lazy creative, and just the concept of laziness and rebranding that as like efficiency or whatever, and just kind of having a theme, a concept, a series. That for me is a bit of IP that now other brands can attach themselves to, but I don't give that to them.
Yeah.
I now own that. And
as a concept, I think it's really smart, because I think a barrier for a lot of people, if they want to start creating any kind of media, is that they think it's harder than it actually is.
Yeah.
And it's more involved than it actually is. So you created a blueprint that's basically like, okay, what is the minimum viable anything to just like get your message, whatever it is you're trying to say, out there.
Just like videos.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally resonate with ownership. Even personally, it's like anything I've ever done that has gotten like I use the word attention in like a positive light, like not
Mhm.
because I want a ton of attention, but that has like ever really done anything for me and to like push myself forward has always been something that I've had ownership over.
Yeah.
This podcast, my newsletter, like when used to be a musician singing in bands, like that was all of those things are the needle movers, right? And then anytime I've just kind of sat back and kind of fulfilled somebody else's story or brief or whatever, it's, sure, there's a paycheck attached to it, but sometimes it's a struggle to, get an appropriate paycheck, which is a different conversation.
Yeah.
But it's like you're not invested and I don't know, maybe it's a little woo woo, maybe it's like a whole manifestation thing, but if your heart isn't in it, if it's not aligned with you, then it's like I've never seen any returns off of that.
Yeah.
Even for like as a DP, I like making pretty images, but there are some jobs where I'm just like, I don't want to shoot this B-roll,
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I was surprised working for a lot of different brands how not like infatuated I was with them. Like getting to work with even like CPG brands aren't the sexiest brands, but like working with Coca-Cola or Pepsi or different things like that. And just like it's somebody else's stuff. I'm helping build someone else's thing and not building something that I own. Yeah, I've been surprising how not fulfilling that is for me.
Yeah.
And maybe for others, it's really fulfilling. But yeah, even like working on like really cool stuff, I just didn't care to waste or not waste, but like give up my time and energy for a lot of that kind of stuff. And without it kind of being self-serving and like,
And do you find that like because you invested all this energy into things you have ownership over, was it easier or harder to like turn that into like to turn whatever it is you're doing now into like a viable business? Because I'm always curious behind the scenes, what does it look like? Like, I know you've done a lot of like spots for ManyChat,
mhm.
right? Brands and companies like that. Is that something you're going out and looking for intentionally, or are these brands coming to you just based off of what you're putting out in the world? I think, I'm curious about it. I'm sure other people will be curious about it too. Like, what has that looked like for you? It's not
Yeah.
that this is how it works for everybody, but for you, how did you build that up? Like, how are you positioning those things? Like, I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
And this definitely wouldn't be for like this for everyone. But like earlier on, I thought I'd need to do a lot more outbound,
Yeah.
like reaching out to brands and pitching myself. And I've done a little bit here and there. Like sometimes I'll DM a brand and just ask like, do you do partnerships with creators? Like who should I email? And it's crazy how responsive brands can be to
wow.
those DMs, like just on Instagram. But most of my brand sponsorships that I've done this year have been just inbound.
That's the
Like
dream.
working with Adobe,
Yeah.
ManyChat. I'm working with Teachable a lot more recently. It's been them kind of just emailing me, and I think they're very much looking at the space and looking at the spaces on mostly Instagram
Yeah.
and trying to find creators that are rising. And so I've really just focused on making valuable videos, valuable reels for my audience. And yeah, and a lot of that is just kind of floated in.
Yeah. So, I mean, essentially, it's just like you're creating something of value with the tools you're already using anyway.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The term is so ubiquitous nowadays, but it's like, oh, just create something of value, like over deliver on value, like
Yeah.
blah, 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 whatever. I just hear like the Hormozis of the world just being like, oh, value, value, value.
Value.
But there is truth to it.
Mhm.
There is truth to it.
I think you can get like a little bit more tactical though. Like when I talk about value, I'm thinking for me, it's like education. It's
Mhm.
like, can you tell somebody something they don't already know? And if they've learned something from your video, that's value to them,
Yeah.
and that they're going to want to save that. But there's also like a concept in that a lot of creatives in advertising understand that I think is a pretty big superpower for advertising creatives that have kind of understood the traditional advertising world is insights. And when you understand how to use insights to create an idea, I think you could apply that to so many things and apply it to social media content. So what that it talks about is like an insight is a human truth. Most people agree that like an insight is a universal human truth. There's some other kind of more specific definitions where it's like, I really like the definition of an insight, especially in advertising, is an unspoken human truth. It's like those kind of revelatory truths that tell you why people behave the way they do. And I say revelatory because it's not just an observation. It's not just like something that everybody knows. It's like when you can mine for and find kind of revelations for people, revelatory truths that help you see the world in a new way or see a specific problem in a new way. It sparks a reaction. It sparks emotion in people. It hits a nerve. It could make you laugh. It can make you go, oh, I've never thought about that in that way. And that's the reaction that you want most people in content to have is, oh, I've never thought about it that way. I'm going to save this, or I'm going to click like, or I'm going to send this to somebody. And that goes for me, like I use an advertising framework. I use an advertising skill set because it applies so perfectly to it, but it's about insights, like finding insights that will then be the fuel for an idea that can be a video. That's what I think makes a really valuable video for me is like, can I find an insight that will help people see the world, see themselves, or see this problem in a new way? And I borrow a lot of that like kind of language and definitions from some really great strategists that are in the advertising space, like Mark Pollard and Julian Cole. They talk about this if anyone wants to like dig more into insights. But yeah, if creatives can really understand insights and human truths, the things that actually make people like react, you can apply that to the content of your video, like the thing that's gonna make people feel like this video is of value. It's also great inspiration for the hook of a video. Like, oh, he just said something that I've never thought about before. I want to hear more about this. Like all of a sudden you've got a great hook. You've also like, you can have a great platform or a great pillar of content. For me, like the whole lazy creator thing is in advertising, I'd call it like a platform. Like I talk about the lazy way of being an art director, the lazy way of being a creator, because for me, the insight is like, we avoid being lazy, or we look down at being lazy, but really like if you're really lazy, you're actually just smart, or you're actually just, working smarter, not harder, and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
and people are always going to gravitate towards like humans have an innate desire to, for the most part, expand their worldview a little bit, to get those insights and like be exposed to things that they haven't been exposed to before, and like have those light bulb moments. And that's like what brings people in, whether it's good advertising or good storytelling or just sharing things of value that you find interesting that hopefully helps other people. And it's kind of creating that like flywheel, right? That starts to build on itself, where if you can get over the hump, where I struggle is like, I struggle with trying to define outcomes before I've, done something. I say, oh, this is what I want the thing to do, before I've actually gone and done it. And that puts a little bit too much like pre-definition on it.
like before you've scripted the whole thing, or before like,
Yeah, I'm even saying like bigger picture, right? Like just because we're talking on this podcast, it's a good example. Like I started it because I just wanted to have conversations with people that I wanted to talk to, and I figured it was a good way to kind of gain access to them. It's like, hey, I'll put your podcast out. It'll be broadcast wherever you can get podcasts. Like that's people always want to talk about themselves,
Totally.
And that's not, I don't mean
It's
that
like,
negatively.
now I know,
Yeah.
like this is a great opportunity to get some really nice video shots and stills.
I mean, you look
and-
great.
Yeah, appreciate it. But yeah, that's why I'm here.
That's why we're here. But now that I've gone down the road a little bit with the show, and it's kind of evolved into something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to see the value in having conversations with other creatives who are out there like building their own careers in a unique and interesting way. And not that the audience for this is abundantly huge, but I do get regular feedback of like, oh my God, this was great. Whether it's a solo episode or something with a guest, it's like, it's clearly doing something that I wasn't originally intending it to do. So I guess the whole point is not predefining something and just, kind of getting over that hump and just going out and making the thing.
Totally.
It's so important.
I think that honestly goes back to like lanes too.
Yeah.
And honestly, back to even deciding to go down the art direction path for me when I was back in college. So many people give the advice like, you just got to pick a lane. You got to pick a lane and,
oh my God.
and go down. And I hated that
Oh my
so
God,
much.
dude. I hated that. And I'm going to let you expand on it in a second. But
you're a sound guy. You're this, you're that. I want all of it.
When I first started out in filmmaking, because I didn't know anything, I like taught myself to shoot and edit, and I just kind of stumbled into freelance filmmaking. And I had people all the time say, you need to define what it is you do or no one will ever hire you. And I have quote unquote defined myself in some way. As a DP for a decade because it got me work.
Yeah.
But it has not always been a smooth road because there's always all this other stuff in the back of my head. And yes, I hate being told you need to pick a lane because what that does is it boxes you in.
Yeah.
It puts you in a box. And then from that point forward where you define yourself, moving through life in time and space, you are then defined within that box, and trying to get out of that box is so hard.
Yeah. I remember just getting feedback from a lot of like creative directors or recruiters that I wanted them to hire me, and they would be like, you got to pick a lane. And I just like, that feels like the least creative thing at all. Like, why would you want someone who just picks a lane? And I think it's just people might convolute it with expertise or being a specialist and stuff like that. And I think it's kind of a different conversation. The reason why I bring it up, like related to knowing like the destination, like we were talking about, like knowing the destination, but not really like knowing the path to get there, or not really knowing what, like, do you pick this lane? Do you pick this lane? I don't know. I don't know if I have a strong opinion on it other than to just like follow where your interests go, follow where like your passions go, and it's going to naturally take you to your realm of expertise or zone of genius that people talk about or whatever it is.
And I'll add to that is like now just happens to be like a really good time to do that because there's so many tools available, so many ways to get whatever it is you're trying to put in the world out there. I think it is a good time, a good point in time to make stuff like that happen. So in the interest of time, I'm going to wrap this up now, but what is next for you? I know you're moving, which is why I'm glad
across the country.
Yeah, which is why I'm glad we could make this happen. So what's next for you in life and career?
Honestly, what's next is trying to get a routine.
Yeah,
like it's constantly. I think it's a constant chase being like a creative, like trying to find what you want to be doing, trying to find like your routine, your rituals, get things going. So for me, what's next is like continuing what I'm doing. I'm really focused on Instagram, and that's a place where I've been able to just make a lot of videos and get the routines and rituals going and kind of progress. And so I've really enjoyed doing that because I learn and my craft skills get better the more I make. So honestly, what's next is kind of just doing more of the same.
Yeah.
But a lot of experimentation.
Cool.
Like I'm just going to experiment a lot, figure out new things, not try to lock myself in too much to a specific lane.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like we've chatted a lot about picking lanes, but also focus. And
it gets a little ambiguous sometimes.
I think it's just like it's about seasons. Like I think the next season for me is just getting a little focused on just content and a routine so that I can like kind of, keep the momentum going.
Yeah. To quote my buddy Brandon, it is okay for your life to have seasons.
100%.
And that's life, career, whatever. It can always change and evolve. If people want to find out more about you, where can they do that?
You can find me on Instagram. It's Jason_Swet, which is a whole different story.
SWET.
SWET, kind of like Led Zeppelin, how they don't have the lead, EAD. Jason_Swet, or you just search Jason Murray anywhere and I usually pop up. But Jason Murray is also just the most there's so many Jason Murrays out there. So Jason_Swet, you'll be able to find me.
Cool, man. I'm really glad we could make this happen in person.
Yeah.
Under the wire before you leave town.
For sure.
This was awesome. I'm so happy to hang out and chat a little bit.
This was great.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, that was my conversation with Jason Murray. Such a pleasure to talk to him in person and spend some time together. Such a good guy. If this conversation was useful, the best way to support the show is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, like and subscribe on YouTube. It helps us out and actually makes a big difference. And if you want more on building a creative career without trading hours for dollars, I write a weekly newsletter at thedrewenglish.substack.com. It's free, just practical stuff for creatives trying to figure this all out. Many thanks to Theorist Studios in New York City for having us for this episode. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.